All right, aloha everybody. Ghost of Hawaii. Excuse me while I adjust my tripod a bit. I gotta tell you one thing, guys. The one thing about using YouTube with these type of cameras and even with this tripod is you gotta kind of try to get the sweet spot. So, trying to get the sweet spot as best as I can. Move this around a bit. How's everyone doing tonight? Glad you're all here. Oh, that'll do. We're good, guys. No matter what, we're good. Glad to see everyone is here tonight. Aloha S808. Thank you for stopping by. Last time we had my guest on, we did ghost stories or scary stories. Let me adjust this a little bit more. There we go. Last time we did a show with my guest Joe Sereno. We were talking about scary stories of Kauai. Kyle and everyone that's coming in, good to see you folks. That was a scary show. That show ran over 2 hours. It was about 2.5 hours. And literally, hello there, Cindy. Literally, I had to take a break from, I had to take like about a week or so just to get myself back to where I wanted to be with everything. And it's funny how things work out because we're doing a show tonight about scary stories with my guests about Old Pali Road. Not Old Pali Drive. You've seen me up there many times. I'm sure you folks know some of the stories. Joss Chi, is good to see you. You folks have seen me up there many times. That place is really scary too. I mean, I can't really differentiate between Old Pali Road and Old Pali Drive because they both scare the living daylights out of me. Seriously. I mean, I'm sure my guests could tell you that too. But a week ago, I was up at Auloa. And which is another part of Old Pali Road. And you folks saw my video that I did. That was when we were coming down from our visit there. We were actually leaving Old Pali Road live. But I got zapped by something over there. Something big, something scary, and something nasty. And, you know, I've had time to recover from that. And I've also had time to think about what happened. And my viewpoint, something was rushing from behind us. And it was almost like something ran right into me. And I just got hit with the full force of whatever that spirit or whatever you want to call it. I lost the video. Dang it, I lost that video. But what I do have is an actual like 10 seconds or so of what that entity was. It was actually moving in front of my camera. And it's big, whatever it was. But anyway, folks, tonight, it's interesting because I'm going to be talking about the place. I'm going to be talking about that place, but where my guest had his experiences at the other side of Old Pali Road. This is a very scary place. Smarty Pants, is good to see you. I don't think it's abandoned for no reason. It's abandoned for a reason, not just the fact that they had to close it down because it was getting very old and it was starting to fall apart. That's one of the things I know about it. And if you actually are down Old Pali Road, you actually see what that looks like. And I'm sure my guests will actually let you know exactly what the terrain looks like, especially at night. But we're going to talk about that right now. And I'm very happy that my guest has decided to come back. I really wanted to hear everything about the ghost stories of, the scary stories of Kauai. But tonight, we go to a place and my guest Joe Sereno is going to be our guide. He's going to be our guest to give us that guide to Old Pali Road. And you'll hear the other half of the equation. It's an abandoned place, but not for what people usually think it is. I know a lot of you probably heard stories about it. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on to speak. And Joe, welcome back to Ghosts of Hawaii. And first thing is, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, pretty well. Excited, a little nervous about the show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Public speaking isn't like my strong point. I have a fear of public speaking. So, people listening, bear with me, and we'll get through this together.
Yes, we will. And I forgot to do something here. So hold on one second, folks. Let me put him up all the way on speaker. There we go. Now we got him on loud. Okay, so yeah, good to have you back, my friend. And I'll say it on the program right now as well. It's amazing that Scary Stories of Kauai is just about reached 1,000 views, and that's in a very short period of time to get that number to where you're at with your last show. So congratulations on that, and I really think that this show will be just as good, if not
Well,
better.
I wanted to thank you for letting me do that show because, I did want to use your platform to sort of bring help to children
Hmm.
who were experiencing demonic hauntings, and using your platform help put a spotlight on that so your audience could be on the lookout for things like that. And that in itself is a huge blessing. I thank you enormously.
Oh no, no problem. I mean, I'm just glad that you're able to share that information that's needed. And I absolutely agree with you. We have to have a message when we do these type of interviews and programs. So I thank you for your sharing everything that you did. And so congratulations again. You're about to hit 1,000. And
Oh my
everyone,
God,
yeah.
I'm excited. It's like I couldn't believe anyone would take interest in an old country bumpkin from Kauai like me, but I'm pleased to hear that they did.
That's fine. No problem. Bumpkin, pumpkin, it's all good. So we're going to start now. Everyone is coming in. Tessie, Omi, everybody, Kyle, everyone. Hello again. Welcome. And also before I begin, yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm going to turn on the Ovulus. We have the Ovulus here with us tonight, guys. And I'm going to be running the Ovulus throughout the entire program to see. And I got to turn on the volume first. Hold on one second. Before I do, I'll just turn Ovulus on. Ovulus on. So, for those of you that aren't familiar with Ovulus, Ovulus is a random word generator that, in theory, can actually connect with spirit activity, spirits trying to talk. If you remember the old ghost radar, it's like that without showing all those lights on it, like where the spirit is and everything. So, just as I start, it says shepherd on it. Who knows what that means? And but
Shepherd?
shepherd, yeah. But this thing needs to warm up. So
Oh,
I'm,
okay.
I'm giving it about a minute or two to warm up. But it already popped up the word shepherd. So during the course of the interview, I'm going to be
Hmm.
checking out Ovulus every now and then to see if there's a word that connects with what my guest is
Oh, of
talking
course.
about. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that would be interesting to do that. So that's going to be a regular feature on the show when I remember to do it. Um, and the word forest came up. Whoa. And
What, just now?
yeah, forest. F O
Well,
R
I guess.
E S
Oh my
T.
God, these words they have meaning to me.
I know they do. So let's start and let's get right into the show. Again, Ovulus will be a regular feature. It's not as, hopefully, not as dangerous as using a spirit box. So let's go ahead and use that, and we'll start right now. So, um, we've been doing this work for a long time, and I know at one point you started to do work at the old Pali Road. Of course, I know all of the whole thing about it, but I'm glad you can share this with other people because it does have its own reputation, and I think you can eliminate some of that, illuminate it
Yeah.
with some of the things that happened to you. So the first question I have to ask you, uh,
Hmm.
what got you interested in that? And I'll chime in after you say it because
Oh,
yeah,
okay. It was totally by chance. Me and my neighbor Austin, who remember he was my next door neighbor,
mm-hmm,
and he used to go up and visit Rob guys, and you met him several times, I believe. This was like back in the day of the Inugami case.
mm-hmm,
Well, anyway, he and I were sitting around drinking coffee one afternoon, and we were trying to figure out where to go to investigate. And we received a phone call from our other mutual friend, Sam Mitchell. Remember him?
Yeah.
I'm hearing wind on your side.
There's no wind. Hold on one second. It's probably
Oh.
this. Let me push this off to the side. Is that better?
Okay.
Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Sam called and wanted to get together. But me and Austin were planning to go out and do some investigation. He said he would give us a ride to wherever we wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't have anything planned. We were just saying how we were listening to Glenn Brown's Over the Pali cassette. I don't know if anyone remembers that. But anyway, we're going over the material. We mentioned that to Sam. He said, hey, that's a good idea. Why don't you do Old Pali Road? I mean, we were like terrified just about thinking about doing that. But he said he would give us a ride, so we had a resource. He took us to the Pali Lookout, and he showed us the entryway to the walkway to the right, which goes down below. And then eventually you walk through a grassy path, and it'll connect you, if you go under the freeway, to the Kaneohe side. But we heard that, I think I might have heard it from you, that the police were cutting people off from staying up there at a later time, like 7 or 8, because of I guess criminal activity of some kind. So we knew maybe that's not the best way to go down. You know, if they were watching for people going through, they might mark us and catch us. So Sam suggested that we go to the Kaneohe side, and he dropped us off there. From there, we walked in from, let's see, what's the name of that road? Keo. I'm trying not to butcher the way it sounds. Keo Naoli Road.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And that's like, it's like 2/3 of a mile in from, I think it's Likileki Highway.
Yeah. Excuse me.
And
I'm doing
take
something
that all
right
the
now.
way in,
Mm-hmm.
and then you hit the first area of their version of Morgan's Corner. It's a tree tunnel. It's like maybe 120 yards long, and it goes up their version of Morgan's Corner. These large meandering hairpin turns. Then it goes up towards the power line area,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes up to the freeway where there's some illumination. And then if you go around the corner, it eventually hits that area that dips under the freeway. So hopefully that gives you a general idea of the path. It's not very long. It's not very hard to do. To be honest, back then, the road was under a little disrepair, but I heard it's gotten a lot worse since with the degradation of the environment there. So I would admonish everyone not to venture through just because of the environmental dangers alone. But then, of course, there's the spiritual side of it. What happens if you do avoid the accidents that could be caused by the environment? What if you had a paranormal encounter? I mean, would you be mentally scarred and have nightmares and visions like I still have right now? Or would you go under a spiritual attack where they could cause harm to you in varying ways? They don't have to take it out on you right there and right then. They can wait till a later time to catch up to you and cause you harm.
So I never knew that part. So you still have some type of effect, even though this happened years ago to you.
Yeah, my first expedition was in November of 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have, I mean, even though there's been space and time since November of 2009, every now and then. And it's not often, thank God. But every now and then I'll wake up and I'll be, like sweating, breathing hard. My heart will be beating fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I'll have a vision of when I was there. So it's never really gone away from me. It's something that has stayed with me from the beginning.
Sorry to hear that. I didn't know about that part. Okay, continue.
Okay, so during our first expedition, we got there, I guess, fairly early in the day. Sam had dropped us off on that side, on the Kaneohe side. And we walked in, so we weren't too afraid because there was still daylight in the air. I guess it might have been maybe like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through the straightaway up the meandering hairpin turns of Morgan's Corner. But we noticed something hanging off one of the tree limbs. I guess they might have done this as a prop for Halloween, but someone had hung a hangman's noose off one of the branches of one of the trees that bordered the guardrail of Morgan's Corner.
Can I ask you a question?
That already said it.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Now, on that side of Old Pali Road, or near Morgan's Corner, there's this place, from what I understand, it's near a bridge. Again, this is things that people share with me, with places that I have never been to. But there's a story about a girl that committed suicide. She hung herself. And this is graphic, so I should have said this in the beginning. This is not for kids. People, do not bring your kids to listen to these shows. Anyway, this woman committed suicide. And when she died, they didn't find her body for a while. And what happened was her body started to decay and her head detached from the body. The body just disconnected. I mean, the head disconnected from the body. And so there's a story about her haunting that place. And if I'm not mistaken, people say that it's a very strong haunting. So what I'm trying to get at here is, where you saw this hangman noose, with what I described to you, was anything like that nearby? Maybe it's because of that. I don't know, but I just thought I'd share that with you.
Was there anything like what nearby?
Like, like, was there anything like a bridge or anything else nearby like that? You probably know what bridge I'm talking about.
I mean, like during that area, past the guardrails, it goes down into like the riverbed area.
Yes.
So I'm not sure why they put that there, but it looked pretty creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure what it was supposed to denote, or, like I thought it was just a Halloween prom. But if someone did that knowing this about what you just described, that would be like horrific and morbid.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree.
But, yeah. I mean, we were disturbed by it to begin with. But since it was daylight, we were still fairly calm. So we continued our walk past the power line area. And then where you can see the freeway, there's the road goes parallel to the freeway and makes a right, which leads to going under the freeway at that point. But one thing we noticed on the side of the support columns of the freeway was, I guess, someone had graffitied it. But what looked weird about it was they didn't just tag it using a name or numbers or symbols. I mean, they took the time and effort to draw like this humongous demon head. And I'm thinking, of all places to do this is, I mean, are you paying homage to something? Are you coming up here conjuring? Is this a warning to people? I wasn't sure what to conclude. But it caught our attention. And that was just in the daytime. So we began walking back to the area that's, I guess, parallel to the freeway. There's that, I don't know if people have hiked there in the past, but there's this large concrete area next to the freeway. And, it's above that road that you went on.
Oh, okay.
So right above the road you came up, that portion of Old Pali Road runs parallel to that, directly parallel. So we were having a cigarette just to, calm our nerves a little, as we figured darkness is going to be coming soon. And out of nowhere, we heard this banging sound. It sounded like a baseball bat hitting a tree. Like the way maybe Bigfoot hunters would use that type of employment of the bat against a tree.
Yeah.
So we heard this rhythm. It went boom, 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 pause, boom, 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 boom. And it followed that sequence of boom, 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 pause, boom, 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 boom. But it did it 3 times. So we couldn't figure out who or where it was coming from, but we could hear it clearly. So that kind of shook us. And once again, this is still in the daytime. So we, told ourselves, well, maybe it's someone in the area letting others know that we're here, or it could be something in the area letting us know that they know we are there, and maybe it's a warning of sorts. So it did make us flinch. It made us start to walk away from that area. So we walked down the power line area and made our way back towards Morgan's Corner to get some shade, get away from the daylight. There was still a scattering of people that were walking, power walking, maybe walking their dogs. One of the strange things was we saw 2 gentlemen on motorbikes. They were small motorbikes, maybe like 125, something easy to push or whatever. So we waited and we're trying to kill time. And eventually, time did go by, and the majority of hikers and walkers, dog walkers, everyone had left. The only ones we couldn't account for were the 2 guys on motorbikes. But while we were waiting near the Hangman's Noose of all things, we looked across to the other side. And what we saw was a tree, and in front of the tree there was a branch that jutted out, and it ran parallel to the ground. Off this tree was a vine that hung down in a straight line. So it was perpendicular to the branch. It didn't touch the ground. So there was like a few inches off the ground. But what was happening was unexplainable. This one singular vine hanging off that front branch it was swirling rapidly. It was going in a counterclockwise direction. And we couldn't figure out what was causing it. I mean, everyone else had left, and the only people there were the 2 motorbike guys. And I'm sure if they sped by, they wouldn't have noticed it. But this thing wouldn't stop swinging. In order to create that kind of motion, you would have to have had, logically, a gust of wind ranging in the 30 to 35 miles an hour to generate that kind of force. But when we looked at it, and there was like hundreds, maybe thousands of leaves surrounding it, none of them took flight. None of them even rolled along the ground. Just that one singular vine continuously rotating in a clockwise direction. It looked like a clock handle moving speedily, but counterclockwise. So we couldn't account for that.
So, do you think that there was some type of anomaly of nature, or was there wind blowing to compare
Well,
it
we were
with?
trying to debunk that, but like I said, nothing, no leaves took flight, nothing around the tree, like other shrubs or other parts of the tree moved. It was just that one vine.
Okay.
So it wasn't like, what it looked to me like, it was like an abomination of nature.
Mm.
It didn't look like anything we could account for
Okay.
on a physical level of the laws of physics.
So, how long did that
But
go on for?
we walked away from it.
Okay. I would too.
And we were trying to be scientific. We were trying to debunk it. And we were saying gust of wind, or maybe there's a cavern below it that we don't know about, and air is funneling through. We're trying in every way possible to find an explanation for it, but realistically, we couldn't. The only thing that kept us there, believe it or not, was silly pride.
Mm.
Anyone else who would have saw this would have just said, I can't reasonably account for this. I need to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew if we went home early and told our friends that we had left because we saw a swinging vine, they would laugh at us.
Mm-hmm.
So simply out of pride and our stupidity with pride, we stayed.
And then, so you were there for a while, and
Yeah, we were there for, I'd say, a couple of hours watching everyone pass by. What we wanted to do was to be seen going in the daytime and not sneak in during night where people might say, hey, what are those guys doing?
mm-hmm. So
Be
when
part of
did
the crowd, and then just slowly slip away.
things start to change? When did you start to get an idea that something else was going on besides what you saw earlier?
Okay, so, well, we had, like I said, that clubbing sound.
Mm-hmm.
That was like initially seeing this mutation of nature was, I'd say, maybe an hour and a half later. I was starting to see twilight. I guess it was roughly, it was November, so it was getting dark a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So we were, I can still hear that breathing thing.
There's nothing over here.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it was, as twilight was hitting, we decided to work our way down the Morgan's Corner area. And before doing that, we started to take night photos. We brought out my camera and we were photographing. But the odd thing about it was when we took a photo, it looked like someone had took a large black blanket and put it in front of the camera, because all you could see was like on the edges outside of the blackness that was lit up like part of a tree, part of a branch of a tree. You could never really see what was directly in front of you, which is the area that should be primarily lit up. And we found our camera like getting drained after like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 shots. And these were new batteries that we had just bought and just out of the package. So that was giving us some concerns. Our lights was starting to not seem as powerful as we thought when we used them around our homes. So like when we would shine the flashlight, let's say normally it would shine like much further, it was now struggling to penetrate 4 to 5, maybe 5 feet in front of us. And it would stop. It would be like it hit a barrier. So we were like, hitting like a little bit of panic stage here. So we were worried about our flanks, and we were so worried that we came up with this scheme of standing back to back to cover each other's flanks and make small little rotation circular patterns going down Morgan's Corner. I mean, it sounds really paranoid, but that's how scared we were at that point.
How dark was it by then?
I'm sorry.
How dark was it by then?
Well, like I said, once we got inside, the outside, there was a glimmer of twilight on the outside, but it was fading away fast. But once you got into Morgan's Corner, it was like, like I said, our flashlights would only go 5 or 6 feet in front of us. And Austin had brought a pretty nice flashlight, one of those security type flashlights.
Like a mag light.
Yeah, because he was a security guard.
Mm-hmm.
So he brought his security guard flashlight.
Mm-hmm.
So as we were like slowly making our way down the Morgan's Corner, we started to hear what sounded like voices in the wind. But we thought, well, maybe it's just the wind sputtering through trees at a distance. So, are you sure you don't have something on? Because I can still hear this breathing.
No, there's no breathing. There's no nothing. I mean, I have a fan. I have a fan far away from me that's on one. But go ahead, continue. I'll turn it off. Just keep talking.
Yeah, it's too distracting.
Keep talking.
Okay. So we heard what sounded like voices, and I can hear it again.
I'm turning it off. There you go.
Okay.
It's off. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So it sounded like voices coming from inside the forest. You said forest was something that popped up on your.
Yeah, I ain't got nothing on it now. But yeah, go on.
Oh, okay. So we had these sounds that was emanating from within the woods. For those that know the area, if you go down Morgan's Corner, there's an area that you can take a shortcut through to get to Likeke Falls. It was emanating from that portion of the area. But we thought, well, maybe it's still the wind, but when we looked around, we couldn't see anything moving. And slowly but surely, these sounds got closer and closer. And then finally, it reached a point where it sounded it was close by. And at this level, it did sound like what we thought was human voices. And now we're pretty scared because as far as we could tell, we're the only ones left in the area. The hikers and the 2 motorbike guys had already left. So we're hearing these voices, and what we decided to do was our only means of protection. We used Christian prayer, our crucifixes, and our holy water. So we started to employ these prayers and to splash the holy water in front of us. It was like we heard footsteps coming towards us, but the more we prayed, it seemed like it was keeping these energies at bay, at a distance. Like they would get close, but not close enough to really grab or hit you or something like that. They might have been at a distance of, say, 8 to 12 feet away, but you could hear the voices, you could hear the footsteps. But the more we prayed, it seems like the distance got greater for them. And eventually, there was peace, there was silence. I guess they might have decided just to let us go. mercifully. Like, we knew the prayers had worked, and it had bought us some time to get out of there. So once we no longer heard any footsteps or voices, and the thing about the voices was we couldn't decipher the language. Someone might make the jump and say, oh, was it English? No, it wasn't English. Someone might think, was it Hawaiian? But I'm not an expert in Hawaiian language, but from what I do know about the language phonetically, it didn't sound anything that sounded Hawaiian to myself. So it did leave us, and eventually we made our way out to the road, exiting. So we did make it out, but one of the things that happened was once we were out of the tree tunnel, we felt totally relieved. We thought we had just gone through hell, but there was like a burden had been lifted, and there was huge relief once we hit the roadway. But Austin noticed something on the treetops. He said, look at that, there's a light moving. And I was like, no, I think that's just a freeway light. And he was like, no, it's definitely moving. And my eyesight wasn't best. So I did see a light up there, but I couldn't tell you exactly what it was. So I said, I gave him the camera and I said, take a few photos. He took several shots, gave me the camera. I took several shots, and eventually we walked out. The walk out is about 2/3 of a mile to the bus stop, and we're carrying like these heavy backpacks. It's not super far, but we were like physically drained, mentally tired, spiritually shaken. So it did seem pretty hard just to get to the bus stop, even though it wasn't a lengthy walk. Once we boarded the bus, I began going over the staff shots. Austin never really got to sit by me because he gave a seat to, like, I think an elderly lady or something. But as I went over the snapshots, I noticed that it seemed like these lights weren't just lights. They were flames. They looked like rectangular flames, and it was being filled in with color. And on the last shot that I took, I guess, since I had the last 3 shots, it showed a face that was seething with anger. I mean, it was just horrific looking. And when I showed it to Austin, once we got off the bus, and I finally got a chance to speak with him and show him the photos, he was also terrified. I mean, it looked like it was looking through your viewfinder on your camera and just being really, really angry, like with hatred was emanating from this photo. So we were like terrified. We weren't sure if something had followed us home. So I said, you know what, I'm too terrified to even keep these on my memory card. So I said, delete your 3, I'll delete my 3. We got into our house, we started to do like cleansings, with the holy water and the crucifix, to make sure if anything had followed us, we would have a chance to clear it out of our homes. We also bordered our doors and windows with salt, just as an extra safeguard. But we did survive that night, but that's the tale of the first excursion to Old Pali Road.
Okay, take a moment. Folks, just to let you know, with what happened last week with Aloha, I know that I haven't really talked about it much. Even on social media, I would say, well, I was affected by Aloha. But one of the things that have happened to me, one of the traits of the attack, one of the side effects, whatever you want to call it, is that once in a while, um, I get kind of intense, and
You get what?
I get intense. I can get angry very easily. So if
Oh,
it does happen during the course of this program, please excuse that fact. I am in the process, like what Sereno was saying, that even after all these years, he's still affected by it. This is something that's very fresh to me. And not to interject his story with mine, but to let everybody know on October 30th, I will be going back to Aloha, and I'm going to try and bring Pono to the situation so that it might help with what's going on with me. Because besides the anger, unexpected anger, and other emotional swings that I would go through, I have very bad nightmares, extremely
oh, you
bad night.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was having some bad nightmares. So earlier when you heard me say, "Oh, I'm turning off the fan," that's part of it, because I can get triggered very easily, and that's not like me. So I'm gonna let Sereno continue, and again, let me thank you all for letting me interject with that. It's a difficult thing, but I know that I can get through it, because this just happens. People do get attacked by spirits. It doesn't have to be at Old Pali Road. It can happen anywhere. And I hope no one goes through what I went through or what Serena went through. So go ahead and continue, my friend.
Okay, so the second expedition, we did get to do from top to bottom, from the old Pali Lookout to the road that extends off to the right. That at the time, I guess they had a chain link fence, but people would walk around it and venture forth down below. So we chose that way also. By the time we got there, though, it was pretty late, so it was already dark. We hadn't really, you know, gotten there as early as we wanted to, but we did get there, and we decided to go from the top down, which is a great adventure to do. That's probably the most exciting way to do Old Pali Road. Take it from the top all the way over to the Kaneohe side. So as we were walking down, didn't seem like much was happening. It was very calm. It was starting to get very dark, so we were worried about the timeline. We did dip underneath the bridge to get over to the Kaneohe side, and we started to walk along the road. And let's see. Yeah, we were worried about our equipment going down, so we were like really carrying a lot of extra equipment, which was taking a toll on us physically. And the second one, oh, excuse me. Yeah, this was probably one of the most active situations that happened. It seemed everything was going along fine, nonchalantly, until we got into the Morgan's Corner Road, and that's when things started to happen. We had ventured all the way down to the bridge area down below, and we were taking a little break, and what we saw was Philip.
Are you there?
Yeah, do you remember the guy with the Doberman pinchers?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I know who you're talking about.
I mean, he was the only person that I've seen at night venture through that area. The thing was, we were down below by the bridge at the bottom of Morgan's Corner, and we heard like these footsteps, loud footsteps, and we were thinking, wait a minute, it's dark. How can anyone see? And then he appeared, and he appeared with his Dobermans, behind him. And he just looked at us, and I tried to say hi, but my voice cracked because I was surprised anyone else would be up here. And he continued to walk by us with his dogs. But I told Austin, "Where's his light?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "He doesn't have a light. I mean, we're struggling to move around, and we have flashlights. I mean, I didn't see him with any special night vision goggles or anything. So I'm not how he managed to do that. And very familiar with the road. Anyway, he did walk by, and we were continuing to finish off our cigarettes. And from the top of Morgan's Corner, we saw a series of red lights. I guess they were the size of basketballs, possibly. And they were like a dark burgundy color. And it didn't seem like, it seemed like they appeared out of nowhere, because they appeared from the guardrail edge of one of the curves and just appear like one after another. And we stopped counting after about 6 or 7. And we just jumped to the ground because we knew it wasn't anything human. And we waited until it went away. We waited to check. What we did was, we were so scared, we jumped to the ground. We were like hugging the ground. We were in mud and gravel. And eventually we stood up, and we didn't see the lights any longer. So we were like catching our breath, thinking like, wow, they had showed us mercy and not come down to the point of the road where we are at.
So,
Hold on. So we waited a little bit just to be sure. And at a distance from the area that would be close to where Likeke Falls is, we saw one of the lights starting to traverse back towards us. At first, it seemed to be above the tree line. And then I was thinking, is this something man-made, some sort of searchlight, or, I wasn't quite sure. But then it dipped down below the tree line, independent of anything connecting it to. And it slowly maneuvered towards where we were. This time, the color of this one was like the dark burgundy color on the inside, but around it had turned into like a light red on the exterior. So you have an object the size of a basketball, and the nucleus has a dark, rich burgundy color, and the red surrounding it. So in size, the nucleus was maybe the size of a softball, but the whole ball of light itself was probably the size of, slightly smaller than a basketball. But it was starting to come very close towards us. Once again, we knew this wasn't anything connected with man. So we, once again, hit the ground, was hugging mud, hugging gravel, just to get out of sight of this entity. It got to the point where ever so slowly it maneuvered back towards us. And it stopped maybe 20, 25 yards away. And it just sustained itself. It just hovered there. There was no sound emanating from it, so there's nothing mechanical. And it just stayed that way. And in my mind, I kept thinking like, we're safe. We're in total darkness. If we don't move, it can't see us. We're safe. And I was thankful. And then it did what it did, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but I'm not making this up. It shone a pinkish light that traveled down to the ground, and you could see everything on the ground. You could see the shrubs, the smaller trees, trees that were on the side of the road. You could see everything very clearly, as if to, what I was feeling was, oh my God, it read my mind. And it answered me like, if I wanted to find you, I could find you. And then it retracted the light, and it just hovered for maybe another minute, perhaps, just waiting to see what we would do. We weren't about to do anything. We weren't about to stand up and take photos. We knew better. Eventually, it started to retrace the path that it took, almost exacting, going down below the tree line, going through the fields, all the way up to the point of where, like, Lukeke Falls would be situated.
That's scary.
So, yeah, that was, we were just terrified.
What do you think it was?
I think it was, people talk about the night marchers, and I'm thankful I never encountered that, but I think it was maybe like when they talk about the color red, they said that's usually aligned with like the ancient gods. So I think it might have been something of that magnitude. So after a while, we tried to make our way out. But we tried to take photos and stuff. And I took like 3 photos on the way out. And I think I showed you those photos. I think one you called a screaming face.
Yes.
Yeah. And another one was like this giant cat-like creature. And another one was like a floating dog's head. But what happened before we got out was a bird had flown down, and it was, I missed the point. Yeah, earlier in the day, Austin had said he saw a newborn cat. And I said, that doesn't seem likely. Why would there just be one newborn kitten here? So we went back to where he said he saw it. We couldn't find it. But, so that's the cat incident. Happened earlier in the day. Now what happened was this bird, out of nowhere, flew down from, I guess, the trees and landed in front of us. And it made this sound: tweet, 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 pause, tweet, 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 tweet. Do you recognize the rhythm of that?
Not really.
It was the rhythm that we heard.
Oh, earlier. Yes. Earlier. At with the bat, yeah.
Yeah, and it did that 3 times. But when I looked at the bird, it looked like it was being forced to do so. Like it wasn't just doing it on its own. It was like something was making it do it. Like, we have lights and stuff. Why would a bird fly towards 2 people? And it didn't look like it was doing it on its own accord. So Austin, I guess he was nervous from everything that had happened. He decided he would whistle the tune. he did whistle, 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 after the bird had done it several times. And out of nowhere, we hear a voice, a human voice. It wasn't me, it wasn't Austin, but it sounded like a human voice whistling back the same notes. Whistle, whistle, whistle. Whistle, whistle, whistle. And it did that several times. I mean, Austin just turned totally pale. And he became catatonic. He wasn't moving at all. At all. I was trying to figure out a way to revive him. So I splashed holy water on him. And I took the crucifix, and at the time, I had only memorized 2 prayers, the St. Michael and the Lord's Prayer, so I recited both of those. And he seemed to have come out of the trance. So we gathered up ourselves and we began to walk out. But as we were walking out, I was on the left side of the road, he was on the right side. And I see him grab a stick, and he's holding it like he's defending himself against something. But when I look at the height of the stick, it's not pointing downwards. It's not even pointing straight ahead. The stick is elevated. And what he said he saw, and I didn't see it because I was on the opposite side of the road watching that flank. He said it was a dog. And I was looking at the height of where the point of the stick was. That would have made the size of the dog, like a cow. And my last photo on the way out was that of a floating dog head. Just to outline the lines of a dog face. So if you add all of those elements together, a cat that disappeared, the human whistling, and the giant dog that he saw, these were all elements that showed itself in my 3 photographs on the way out.
I'm watching a show.
So eventually we did make our way out. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention. Trying to do EVPs, and one of the things he said was, if you're here, can you touch me? And then these entities don't have to harm you during that time frame. What happened later was 3 events had happened to Austin. He had gotten arrested. He had lost his job because of that. And his wife had taken both his children and moved back to Japan with her parents. 3 events that happened to him after he asked if he could be touched. And that was the conclusion of Old Pali Road the second time.
I know you went up there. I know you went up there 6 times, and out of the 6 times, how many of those times that you went that you had really scary experiences?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Out of the 6 times that you went,
Mm-hmm.
how many of them did you had really scary experiences with?
Oh, each time has been horrific to me. Like I said, the first time was, hearing those sounds emanate, those club-like sounds, and then seeing that vine twirl around in the daytime. That's just the first day. And then hearing the voices come forth, hearing the walking, all of those things happen.
Okay, so
during the first time.
you went 2 times. So when's the other time that you went that you noticed that you did notice that stuff was happening besides those 2 times?
Oh, yeah. During the third time, and then because the people who came with me the third, fourth, and fifth time told me specifically not to mention them by name, I'm going to use fictitious names simply because they said they wouldn't allow me to use their name. So if I lose fluidity, it's because I'm substituting their name with a fictitious name.
Okay.
So the third time, I was able to befriend someone at work. She was a volunteer. And we began talking. I guess we started talking about hobbies. She said she liked hiking and stuff. So I mentioned, oh, I do hiking too, but I go at night. And she was like, what? And I said, yeah, I do ghost hunting. And she was like, oh my. So I kind of just mentioned, would you like to come along one day? And she said yes. So I thought, I didn't expect her to say that. But since she had, I guess we had a date. We went on one. So in this occurrence, we drove there through the Kaneohe side, and we had parked outside alongside the road. Part of her car was on the road, part of it was off the road. She was a little worried about that. But we did manage to enter. We walked in. One of the things that stood out was the blackness. It was extremely, extremely black. It was so dark, one of those nights when you can't see your hand in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we were walking in through the straightaway of the tree tunnel. And when we got to the bottom of Morgan's Corner down below, I took a few photographs. And then we continued upward, going through Morgan's Corner, hitting the straightaway, and we ended up just parallel to the freeway. I thought this would be a good place to be because there was some lighting, and maybe that might make her feel more at ease. So I don't know. The one thing that stood out in my mind was nothing out of the ordinary seemed to be happening, but it seemed like there was like a displacement of time. Because I'm looking at the time constraints. We got there at about, let's say 7:30, 8:30. Let's say around 8 o'clock. Let's say we took half an hour to get through the tree tunnel all the way to the point which was parallel to the freeway, taking our time. And that would put us at roughly, what time would that be, like 8:30 or something?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're at that area. And I don't seem to remember all the conversation. She was doing a lot of talking. She was kind of overdressed for ghost hunting. She had like these teal colored pants, some sneakers, but they looked fairly new. It didn't look like hiking sneakers, and a sweater and her glasses. But she looked overdressed. But anyway, we spent, I don't know, it seemed like a couple of hours there. So that would put us at about 10:30. So I decided, maybe we should, or at least I thought it was 10:30. So we began walking back towards Morgan's Corner. And I don't remember anything about actually entering and what what happened when we were walking through, but I do remember we walked around and exited on the tree tunnel area. But when we got out there, what I thought might have been 11 was something like 12:30 or something. So it's like there was a displacement of time of about an hour and a half that I couldn't account for. She didn't seem to notice. And she decided she would go back to the car and change out of her outfit. And when she returned, she had on like blue jeans, some old sneakers, a denim jacket and such. But I couldn't figure out what happened to that placement of time. It was like what happens to victims, kind of like we're not quite sure what happened. So, yeah. Anyway, during the photos session when we initially walked in, one of the photos revealed this demonic-looking creature. It was a combination of human faces merging in, and its left ear was, I guess, mangled or wasn't fully formed, but within the right ear was a cat's face.
Whoa.
So all of the elements
That's crazy.
from the... I'm sorry?
I said that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, all the elements from the second investigation with the cat entity, the screaming face, the floating dog head. Now I figured out this entity could take the form of these other creatures or a man, but what it was telling me from that photograph was it's a combination of all three, and they could take any of those forms. And the size of the head was, if you scale it to what was around it, was probably in the range of like 7 to 8 feet in height, and maybe 5 to 6 feet and 4 to 5 feet in width. So it was a terrifying photo, not one for not something you'd want to show children or anything like that, or even adults for that matter. So that was what happened in that event. But like I said, that pocket of time, I was wondering, like, could it have been that I misread the time? It didn't seem like it, because I'm kind of like a stickler for detail when it comes to time things, and it's like, just seems like I couldn't account for a small portion of time. Perhaps it had a hypnotic effect on us. I'm not even sure. But when I posed the question to her, like, and her name was Mary, what did you like best about the hike on the way back? So I was trying to see what she remembered. It just came off as being general, like, oh, it was quiet and serene. It was like, doesn't sound exacting. Like nothing specific was answered, almost as if she couldn't remember what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought I would point that out.
Okay.
Oh, let me take a little break.
Okay, you go ahead and do that. And while he's over there taking a break, guys, just to let you know, I have a few shows that are lined up. Again, sorry about the little mishaps that's going on earlier and stuff like that. And with the noise, hopefully the noise from the fan, I didn't realize it would be loud, didn't interfere with you folks listening to the show. On Wednesday, I have Jamie coming back. She was the one that was with Living in Haunted Louisiana. We're going to be talking about earthbound spirits and her work with helping them to cross over. So look forward to that. Look forward to that show coming up. And also, what else I got coming up? Oh, the next night, Kuhao will be returning as well, and he's going to be doing a show about the night marchers. I know I told you that I'd be doing some shows about the night marchers. We'll see how many night marchers shows I can actually get going. It's a very challenging time, like I said, because whatever happened to me, I'm still trying to recover from. Hi, Skippy. Good to see you. So still trying to recover from that as well. And also tonight, my neighbors are kind of noisy. So if you hear noises in the background, the walls are kind of thin where I live at. So sorry about that as well. And then I'm also going to try and squeeze in a show about, actually, yeah, I'm going to try and do a show about maybe Ouija boards or spirit communication as well. I have a guest lined up for that. And then we just kind of move forward as well as time goes on. Still trying to do the shows, still trying to recover. It's a tough act to do, but I'm doing my best with that, folks. So look forward to that stuff coming up. And there's going to be more shows as we get closer and closer to Halloween. And maybe like on the 30th and the 31st, I will try to do live streams from these haunted locations like Aloha, which is what in the area where Sereno is talking about as well. And I might have a surprise for Halloween, but we'll see how that turns out, actually. I might be just so exhausted on Halloween night. I don't even know if I'll watch any kind of spooky shows or anything. And then after that, I'll take a little bit of a break because I need it. Okay, so I'm just waiting for our guest to return.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for letting me take that little breather.
Yeah, Manoa Valley Show, my friend. Oh, yeah, no problem, Sereno. Manoa Valley Show. Not from Manoa Valley, just stories about Manoa Valley. I need to get my guest for that as well. And that'll probably be the following week. So look forward to that. And then I'll try to get an Ouija show or something like that if my guest is available to do that. So you got some stuff coming up, and I'm working through all the rest as time goes on. Thank you for being patient with what's going on with myself and everything else. Yeah, they do. Manoa Valley does have night marches. As a matter of fact, we actually walked King's Trail one night, and that was pretty scary. There's a story behind that, and when we do the Manoa Valley show, we'll talk about what happened that night. And my cat wants to leave, so hold on one second. He wants to leave. He wants to leave the room. So go on, Serena. So what happened with the next time you went?
Oh, let's see. It wasn't that. The first was in November, second was in January. The third one with Mary was probably in June. And for the fourth attempt, she decided to bring her friend Jane. Once again, a musician. But we had decided to bring Jane along. She seemed like a nice woman. I met her previously. We had gone over to visit her at Punaluu, and she had taken us on an expedition to the Heiau above, what is it, Waimea Bay? What's that called again? It's that large heiau up on the top.
Oh wait, sorry. I got something going on over here. Continue talking, Serena. I'll be with you in a moment. Go ahead. I got something going on. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Oh, yeah. Well, she had taken us to that heiau, and she seemed to have handled herself very well, very respectful. She didn't seem was timid or anything. So she was the one who suggested that we walk around the heiau. So we did that. Luckily, nothing bad happened. It seemed like a very serene night. So after she took us on that outing, I decided to reciprocate and invite her to do Old Pali Road with us, because she seemed like she had the constitution and the will to do so. So on the fourth attempt, we journeyed from the Kaneohe side again and parked outside. And we began our walk through the tree tunnel and made our way up Morgan's Corner. And then we made that right turn, which takes you along the power line area. There's a little bridge in that area, and we had brought some food. The girls had brought some food, Mary and Jane did. They brought like this vegetable platter with ranch dressing, and I think it was like a plastic container of chocolate chip cookies or something. And to my surprise, they started to say things that I didn't expect them to. Jane decided she was going to leave an offering for the spirits. So she said something to the effect of, "Spirits, these items are for you. We respectfully leave this as an offering and a gift to you." And I was like flabbergasted. I was cringing because I wasn't sure what kind of reaction the spirits might have with this offering. So we continued with our journey. We walked towards, towards the freeway where the lights were. And we stopped there for a bit and took a little breather for a few minutes. And we decided to hit that area that was just above the road that Phil ventured upon. But while we were there, I decided to take some photographs. So I saw this little grass knoll area that went down to the bottom area that the old guys were on. So I was trying to crop a shot, and my flash went off, and I saw what I thought was Jane, the little girl. She's like only like 5'2" or 5'3" in height, sort of frail, not skinny, but light. So I just assumed this female next to me was Jane. So I said, "Why aren't you taking photos?" Because I just saw her briefly, so I just assumed it was Jane. But then I heard Jane talking to Mary, and when I looked behind me, they were chatting away, and I was like, "What? How could this be?" Because I thought it was Jane who was standing next to me. Turned out she wasn't. Whatever it was some kind of spirit that showed itself while I did my photography. So I said, "At any point were you next to me? And did you slide back towards Mary?" She goes, "No, I was never next to you." And I was like, my God, there was an entity that was next to me. I was so scared. I started perspiring. My heart was racing. I don't think they really understood my words the first time around. I had to repeat myself. Then they realized what I had said.
Okay, I'm going to interject for a moment here. Two things come to mind. First and foremost, of course, near the bridge was where the girl had committed suicide, hanging herself. The other thing is there's a story of Jump Rope Girl. And Jump Rope Girl...
Yeah, did you hear what I just said?
What?
Oh, yeah, I was just telling the audience that while we were above the area of the road that you were in,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
was cropping a photo
Yeah, I heard that part.
to take a shot, and then this lady appeared next to me, and I thought it was Jean, but it wasn't. And she
Wow.
was dressed in white.
Mm. Now I'm thinking about
See,
the one you saw that looked like a younger girl.
yeah,
I'm
that's
just
the
kind of,
one.
and then there's also the story of Didi Bustamante, who was also Jump Rope Girl was involved with a murder as well. They call her Jump Rope Girl because she was strangled with her jump rope, which is a very terrible way to die. And then after that, the story about Didi Bustamante was the teenage girl that was also murdered up there. So I kind of wonder if it could be one or the other. Luckily, you didn't see Jump Rope Girl because that's a terrifying sight to see a
Well, I
girl.
didn't see
To see a
the
girl.
entity doing a jump rope type motion. She was just looking down the road that I was looking at
Hmm.
and just staring pensively.
Crazy.
So, but it was wearing white.
Hmm.
See, I thought it was my friend Jean, who's pretty short and not that big, because she was wearing a white top and yellow pants, but at night the yellow pants kind of look white. So that's why I originally thought it was her. And then, like I was telling the audience, I said, "Did you ever get next to me and retreat back to Mary?" And she said, "No, I was never next to you at all."
Thank you, everybody. I
So
appreciate that. Go
I
on.
didn't see any jump rope.
But still, it makes me kind of wonder, and then I guess, then again, I've always said this before. Every time when I hear a story about a child spirit, I just get really, really apprehensive about that. I mean, I don't know if it's the whole thing, maybe some of the times, not all the time, that a spirit is trying to win you over by its appearance that it decides to take on. It might take on that appearance to make you feel like you're safe and nothing is going on. But yeah, so
Hmm.
I kind of wonder about that. So okay, go ahead, continue with your story because I know you got two more.
Oh yeah, I mean whatever's up there, that satanic creature is it's capable of using deception to lure people up there.
Mhm.
So anyway, after that event, I calmed down after a few minutes. We started heading back. At that point, we were above the road you were at, and we had continued onward and made a right-hand turn along the power line area. And we had walked by, the area that they left um, the gifts of food. It was the chocolate chip cookies, the vegetable platter. We hadn't really eaten that much. But like I said, I was hesitant about leaving anything, not knowing how they would receive it. But when we looked for it, none of it was there. So in my thinking, I'm saying, okay, maybe a rat or a mongoose or something in the area smelt it, grabbed it, and took it away. But that would mean spillage of some kind. I mean, okay, you could grab the vegetable platter, but in doing so, if you're a mongoose or a rat, there would be spillage. Like some of the food would spill out, the ranch dressing would spill over. Same with the cookies. There would be something indicating that it had taken a few pieces and maybe left the rest, but nothing was there. It was as if someone had picked it up and walked away with it, all of it.
Hmm. That is scary.
Yeah, but it didn't end there. It didn't end there. So we're looking at the area, trying to search, you know, that area for any signs of the food.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, we hear footsteps in the gravel, and it's right near us. So I'm thinking, oh no. I know what I heard, but the smaller girl, Jane, had heard it, and she goes, oh no. And I said, what did you hear? Or I said, what happened? She said, I heard footsteps walking on the gravel right next to us. So I didn't influence her. She said it on her own, exactly what I had heard. But then it went on. A few seconds after we were trying to see what would happen, we started to hear voices coming up from the ridge line. And it was like a multitude of voices, not a singular voice. It was like many voices were speaking. But once again, like on the second investigation where we heard voices, we couldn't figure out the language. The only thing I could detect was because of volume and the phrasing and the accents and vowels that whatever was trying to communicate with us was angry. So here we are trying to figure out what to do. The little one, Jane, was hiding behind me. She was starting to shiver and shake and cry. The other one, Mary, she used to be an ex-Marine, so she was taking it a bit better. She backed away and stood next to me, but Jane was hiding behind us. I had to figure out some way to get us out. The only thing I could do was try to communicate with whatever was there. So I just started to apologize profusely if we had offended anyone in the area. That wasn't never our intention to do. And I have to speak loudly because their voices were loud. Not quite screaming, but loud enough that I had to speak loudly so that I could hear my words. So I was asking for forgiveness, asking to let us go. And the murmuring started to subside slowly but surely until there was like a silence. So I guess my pleading had helped somewhat. Jane, in the meanwhile, was still crying, blubbering, tears running down her face. Mm-hmm. Mary seemed to be just stunned, but in better condition. I was stunned, but I figured we needed to go back down and leave. So Jane was almost too afraid to go through Morgan's Corner because of its darkness, and I don't blame her. So what I did was I gave her my crucifix, put it around her neck, and I did a few prayers, the St. Michael prayer and the Lord's Prayer. And I took out the holy water and put it on all of us. And I said, well, we need to leave here. We can't stay. We don't know how much time they're giving us to leave. So we have to do it. We grabbed Jane's hand. We began walking down Morgan's Corner. And eventually we made our way out through the tree tunnel and back to the car. One of the photographs that I took on the way up it looked like a goblin type face, like a jack-o'-lantern. And like the first picture where the right ear was mangled, it also had that same look where the right ear was missing, but it had like the face of jack-o'-lantern human-like thing with a gap smile and a wolf-like ear on the right side. But I wouldn't know this until after I got home and went through the photos. Normally, I don't go through my photos until I get home because I don't want to be distracted. You're living in the moment. You're dealing with the moment. You know, you want to try to be as safe as you can without being distracted by going through photos. So that's normally when I make the discovery of anything I take. But that was Old Pali Road the fourth time. Oh, let me take a little breather.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been working with him for on and off, going about 12, 13 years now. And I can believe in his sincerity because when you really encounter these things, it's really hard to be anything but truthful, if that makes sense. There is no room for sensationalizing an encounter with these type of entities. And well, the scary thing is when I listen to these stories, is that unlike Old Pali Drive, you're on Old Pali Road, and there's just something about being out there away from everyone else. And the only way you can leave Old Pali Road is to turn around and walk out. There is no automobile that you can take in there. So I can almost see and feel what he's saying because I've been in similar situations, not quite like that. But then again, too, you know, I could also feel what he was saying when they left the food there as an offering. They call it ho'okupu. And then all of a sudden they come back and it's gone. And before he even said it, I could imagine something or someone, more than likely something or a spirit reaching down, excuse me, reaching down and taking the stuff away. So that's scary. Anyway, he's back. Go ahead, my friend.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
So 5 didn't have too much happening, right? Is that what you said? 5 was not too much.
No, 5. There was quite a bit.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was that third one where it seemed like a lot was happening.
Okay, the third one. Okay, go ahead.
When I first took Mary. But like I said, the displacement of time.
Okay, so continue.
So the fifth one, we had myself, Mary, Jane, and Jane had brought 2 of her friends. Their names were Phyllis, the mom, and Joshua, the son of Phyllis. Joshua wasn't quite an adult. He was maybe a month or 2 shy of being 18. Normally, I wouldn't bring someone underage, but he seemed like he might be an asset.
Pause 1 second.
Very polite and respectful. Didn't seem like he would cause trouble and provoke.
Pause 1 second. Ovulus just said problem. Was there a problem with this person or any kind of problem?
Oh, there was huge problems.
Okay, Ovulus just said problem. So go on.
Yeah, being done. I guess I was the only one who had a decent amount of experience in the field, and Mary was acquiring it. And Jean seemed like she had a good amount of knowledge. Like I said, she took us to that heiau at Waimea. But Phyllis and Joshua were the new ones, and I don't think they had any experience, but they had shown up because Jane had brought them. So we decided to go in, And your obelisk did say problems.
Yeah, said problem.
Yeah, there were.
Okay.
As we were walking in, Phyllis was holding hands with her son Joshua. Me and Mary was leading the pack, and Jane was in the middle of everyone. So we were walking in along the straightaway of the tree tunnel, very slowly, very, very slowly. Phyllis and Joshua didn't seem to want to rush, and we didn't either. But all of a sudden, I see Mary stop like something had happened, and she was shaking her head like something eventful had happened. So I asked her, what happened? She goes, oh, nothing happened. And I was thinking, it looked like something did happen. It wasn't until a few days later she told me during that instance she had saw a hooded man to the right of her. She was the only one to see this. She said it was for just a second or two, but she was absolutely sure that's what she saw. I don't know why she didn't reveal it to us. Maybe she thought she was just imagining it. But I always tell people, communication is the key. What seems, like if it could be or might be, let people know, because that will alert everyone in the group that danger is close by. So at that point, we didn't know what she had seen. We continued to take a little break there at the bottom of Morgan's Corner like we normally do. And all of a sudden, Phyllis, Joshua's mom, and Jane start walking ahead briskly. And at first I thought they were just going to venture off a few feet away and take photos, but within eyesight. But they continued walking up the path to the top of Morgan's Corner, just to that area that I was talking about, that roadway that was you guys were looking up at. And they stopped there. I mean, when we saw them moving, I asked Joshua, where's your mom and Jane going? He said, I don't know. So we struggled to catch up with them. When we finally caught up with them, the reason they had walked away was they needed a bathroom break to pee somewhere. And I was like, my God, just tell us, we'll step away and you can do your business. Don't ever walk away a distance without telling anyone. Bad things can happen. So they apologized, and I was like, oh, it's too late now. So I just said, well, be careful. Just apologize for having to pee or whatever, say it, excuse me at least. Let them know that you are human. They know that. They might forgive you. So they did that. And we began to walk back down towards Morgan's Corner. And we stopped for a bit. And then suddenly, no one told me about this either. I think it was Joshua and Phyllis, and maybe even Jane. Me and Mary hadn't seen anything. We were watching a different plane close to us, and they had looked up the Morgan's Corner, and they said, oh, to the left, we saw a black shadow come down. And I was like, why didn't you say anything? And they were saying, oh, we thought it was a good spirit. And I was like, a dark black spirit? A dark black shadow? Are you kidding me? I was seething mad at this point, but once again, it was too late to correct it. I said, maybe it's a squatter, someone who lives up in the area. So my first threat is it's something human, but we have to deal with it. So I looked around. Josh gave a look like he would come with me to check. I nodded him off. It's like, you need to be with your mom, Phyllis, and Jane. Mary stepped up because she was an ex-Marine, trained in hand-to-hand combat. And she was of good size. She was like slightly shorter than me. You know, I'm like 5'9.5". She might have been like 5'8.5". You know, maybe 140 or something like that. She carried a good amount of muscle. So I said, okay, let's deal with this. When we walked up the side of the road and turned on the flashlights, no one was there. So when we got back to the group, I said, did you see the figure go back up the road? They said, no. Then I went, oh my God. It was a spirit. So I said, you know, this is the time right now we need to leave. But during that investigation, I didn't take any photos because my camera had fallen and it broke. So I wasn't able to take any photographs. But I just decided this is getting way too dangerous. You know, if they saw a dark black figure coming down the road, that means it's a spirit. It knows we're here and it's coming for us. So I said, we need to leave. So we decided to head back along the straightaway of the tree tunnel. And as we were getting close towards the exit, we saw a man. He was just waiting there by himself. Kind of had his arms crossed, like he was actually waiting for us. And I was trying to think, is he like a security guard or someone that works on the premises? And is he going to call the police on us? Had he called the police on us? I wasn't sure what to expect. But when we got close to him, he looked like he was possibly Hawaiian. And he was sturdy looking, like he looked older, like maybe he was in his late 40s, maybe 50. But he had muscles on him. He was a little shorter than me, so I would say about 5'8". And he was dressed in modern clothes, like he had a bright orange t-shirt on, and he had a pair of dark colored shorts, and he began walking towards us. But the one thing that stood out in my mind was he's barefoot. That made no sense at all. It's like, okay, you know, the road itself is filled with divots, branches, possibly glass, twigs. I mean, it would be dangerous to walk barefooted. But he came towards us, and he just looked at us, and I gave him a nod, and he kind of nodded at me. Then he walked by us, the whole group. We each passed him. And then Mary, all of a sudden, after a few seconds, I don't know if she was nervous, thinking like he might do harm to us. Or maybe it's in our military training. I don't know. She turned around quickly after like 2 seconds, flashed the light on the road. No one was on the road. I flashed the light into the brush. No one was in the brush along the tree line or the shrubs. And if someone had gone barefooted, it would have sounded like, in the dark, it would have sounded like fireworks going off, stepping on branches and trees, plus not being able to really navigate in the dark. So whoever this was barefoot and had disappeared completely. Like, we had walked by him. Mary had waited maybe 1,001, 1,002, about, let's say 2.5 seconds before she turned around, pivoted, and flashed her light on the roadway. At most, he could have gotten in 2 seconds or 3 seconds, let's say 1,000, 1,000, 2,000, 8 to 9 feet in front of us, maybe 10, but that would be the most. But he was nowhere in sight. So that, that was probably a spirit also. It had to have been. And that was investigation number 5. We were all flabbergasted at the sight of that, trying to figure out what happened. None of us could come up with a sensible idea of where he had gone.
Wow. Okay, so number 6 is coming up.
Yeah, that's the one I did with Dave. I don't have to use fictitious names. Remember Dave? He was the security guard at the McCully Shopping Center.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah. So he decided to join me. This was the 6th time I've done it, and this time I did it from the top, all the way from the lookout, all the way to the Kaneohe side by foot. So Dave decided he wanted to join me because I'd been showing him photographs at the mall, and he said, I'd like to go on one of these. I was like, okay, he was ex-military. He was also an ex-Marine, like Mary was. So he had military mind, probably wouldn't scare very easily, would be sensible, could probably handle himself pretty well. So I agreed. And that was after Makahiki. And that was the year 2000. Let's see. 2011.
Okay.
And I had chosen that point because I said, well, I want to see what happens after Makahiki. And that was like during the time of the battle, right? It would be after Makahiki because all the tribes had truces.
Okay.
So we went, I guess it was in March or somewhere around there. And I kept telling him, like, I was worried about our flashlights going out. So he said, oh, not to worry. He has this small kerosene lamp. So if our flashlights died, we would still have a light source to make our way out. So he had brought that with his belongings. And he had put it in his backpack. And when we got there, I did an introduction that I normally do. I usually announce to the spirits my name, explain my purpose for being there, and to ask permission to venture through their land. And he had chosen not to do so. I can't force someone to do something they don't want. But he hadn't. So I was like, okay. When he opened up his backpack, he noticed that his kerosene lamp had emptied all of the fluids onto his backpack. He couldn't explain how that happened. It's not like he was twirling the bag around. So I guess the spirits knew what he was up to and decided, I'm going to show you how I can, defeat your plan of having a light source. So that was established right away. It's like, when I saw that, I said, my God, they know what they have. They know what he has in his backpack, and they just annihilated any plan for using that resource. So we stopped for a little bit. We worked our way down to the pathway to the right, going around the gate and such. We slowly made our way to the bottom. It seemed uneventful, but photos revealed it's like that demonic creature. I took a shot which was I guess on the bottom to the right, there's like a little canyon, and sometimes there's a stream that runs from it if it rains that doesn't get too large. And there was a tree in the area growing next to the stream, but there was a figure, the same figure, with the damage done to its left ear, but it was standing and it was wearing like, I guess, a robe or something like that. But I didn't know that till I went home and went through the photos. So right at the beginning, it was close by watching us. So we went down, we went below the freeway, got to the other side, and we started to walk. That was about a tree. So it was, so at that point, I already developed mobility issues. I used a cane, and Dave also brought a walking stick because he was having on and off bouts of arthritis, like I was. So we somehow managed to not go over the fallen tree, but under it. But when we got to the side, we noticed another fallen tree. So I was like, my God, we're trapped. Something had set a trap. So before moving any further, I said, let's sit and assess the situation. And we were there for, I guess, a minute or two. We were nervous. We lit up a couple of cigarettes. And we were waiting and watching intently. And all of a sudden, Dave says, I didn't hear it, but he heard left of him. And I was like, I didn't hear it, and I'm kind of close to you. He says, I heard a growl. So sometimes not everyone might be aware of what's going on. They might put their intentions or directions on one person without anyone else realizing what's going on.
Okay.
I think this was the case.
Stop 1 second. We got a lot of weird stuff going on here. We have like, at first, I still think it's just like a connectivity issue. But at one point when you were talking, you were going in and out, and then there was a man's voice that said hello. So in theory, that can also be, different types of lines that are crossing. Although I'm not using a telephone with you, I'm using my device. So I don't know if it's just bleed from another call or something, but it sounded a little bit weird. So I had to kind of like make you stop for a second and then see if when you talk again, it goes back to normal and everything. The other thing, sorry about earlier, folks. I'm literally in the dark here, and my foot kind of like hit the wire for the device, and the device almost fell over, and I had to pick it back up. But yeah, that was weird, absolutely weird. So, but anyway, continue, and I hope that is just what we said it is. I mean, what I said it is. It's just something to do with a glitch or something that's going on. So continue. What is
What was
that?
the
Hold on a
last
second.
part that
What
you
is
heard?
it? Hold on 1 second. Hold on. I swear I heard some kind of dog or something. It sounds weird. Okay. It's just weird. Yeah, it sounded like it was bleeding through the communication on your side. Is there a dog
Yeah,
growling?
because I was just speaking about Dave hearing a dog
Okay, is there
next
any?
to him.
Is there a dog or anything on your side? Neighbor's dog or anything? No.
No.
Okay, my windows are closed and everything too. That sounded like something really loud, like a large dog. Okay, continue. Let's. I guess we have to get through this as best as we can. Go ahead.
Okay, so at this point we're trapped between two fallen trees.
Mm-hmm.
The distance between the trees were about 50 feet. So we were about in the midway point, when I discovered there was the second fallen tree. And that's when we sat down to have cigarettes and assess the situation. And that's when Dave said he heard a dog growl. But once again, I hadn't heard it. So nothing seemed to happen. I didn't hear anything. He hadn't heard anything for a few minutes. We finished our cigarettes and we decided to not go over the second tree, but once again, go under the tree because of our mobility issues. So we're walking along and we hit the point where we're parallel to the freeway and you can see the light above. And then all of a sudden, Dave has this disturbed look on his face. And I couldn't figure out what he was doing, and he kept looking down at his shoe. And I still couldn't figure out what he was looking at. Then I noticed, and then I was in shock. I couldn't really see his shoes because they were covered in this dark brownish black mist. So it's like I could see his shoes I could see him from the ankles upward, but his shoes were covered in this dark mist. He looked at me as if I could explain it away. This was the first time I had encountered this, so I wasn't sure what to do. I was in panic mode because this mist extended from where we were all the way down the power line road. So once again, I figured, okay, we had crossed over the other side. Maybe there's an entity here and we need to ask permission to keep continuing. That's the only thing I could think of. So that's exactly what I did. I started to apologize for trespassing on its land, and I said, we didn't mean any disrespect. We're not here to do harm to your land. Forgive us for trespassing and stuff. And the more we walked, the more it seemed to dissipate. It started to dissolve, if that's what you can call it, to the point where after a while we could actually see our shoes. But that's the first time I ever seen anything like that. Anything. And Dave started to get sick. He started like crunching over and started to cough. And his face was starting to change color. There were like these gray spotches on his face. Mm-hmm. They kind of looked like oil or something, grease or something. So I pointed that out and I said, well, Dave, you have something on your face. So he got some water and put it on his hand.
Let me ask you something real quick. Earlier you were talking about Dave and his lantern and oil and stuff. Do you think that this was some kind of manifestation of something that was trying to connect that with what was going on with him? Because you kind of feel like he wasn't kind of being up and up with the situation even back then. You mentioned that his face looked like oil. Have you ever thought about that before?
I'm sorry, what? The oil, I asked him.
No.
I pointed it out to him.
No. When you said that it looked like there was something like oil on his face, mm-hmm. Did you ever try to connect that with the fact that what happened with the kerosene earlier?
Oh, with the kerosene.
Yeah, did you ever try to connect that or think about that?
Yeah, well, I knew he didn't ask permission to venture forward, so that's already like one strike. Mm-hmm. And then to try to outplay them at their game, you think you're going to come in with kerosene and illuminate it? Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
We're taking away the illumination and we're hitting you with darkness. Oh, I didn't even see that.
There's a connection, the
Good,
oil on
good
it.
point. That's a great point. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, with the
Yeah,
oil
so
on his
it's now
face.
to the point where you don't have your kerosene lamp. And look, you're enveloped in darkness. Oh, that's a great point.
Oh
I
no,
didn't even
not only
think
not only
of
that,
correlation.
but the fact that it looked like it was oil on his face. Like there's some kind of
Yeah.
connection with that, you know? So yeah,
Mhm.
true, very true. Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. With that too, yes.
that's an excellent observation. I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I did mention that there was oil on his face.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was this. So he took his handkerchief, put some water from his canteen on it, and tried to wipe it away. And now there was a second, which developed up. Instead of having one spot, he
Mhm.
tried to wipe that first one, and another one appeared on the other side of his face. It was just crazy. I've never seen that. And like I said, he was starting to labor with his breathing, and he started hunching over. And now we were worried. It's like, oh my God, he started actually saying, I don't feel very well.
Mhm.
And I was like, can you make it out past the, for a little further? He says, I'll try. I knew we had a little ways of the power line to go. We had to go down Morgan's Corner and out the tree line to the other side. So we continued forward. This dark mist started to disappear, but we to go through Morgan's Corner. We took our time because he was really, really laboring now. He was hunched over and grimacing. Eventually, we hit the tree line. We made it to the other side. Have to sit. He just sat and was like on the ground, heaving in pain. So I said, okay, we're not going to make it to the bus stop, obviously. I had brought enough money to secure a cab for us. So I said, you have your cell phone, right? He goes, yeah, I do. I said, call us a cab and let them know where we're at, our coordinates. And so he called a cab. We waited not that long, actually. I would say maybe 15, maybe 20 minutes or so. But it eventually came, and we did get him inside the cab.
Mhm.
We eventually caught the cab back towards McCully and stuff. And I asked to be dropped off, and I gave the cab driver to drop him off at his home. So he did make it home, and I think it was maybe a week or so later he came to visit me, and I guess
Hold on, we got an Ovilus moment. It said the word real.
it said what?
Real. Like maybe what happened to him or whatever. Or the whole thing about this show is real. I'm just as an idea. But that's what
You mean
Ovilus.
like wheel as turning wheel? Oh,
No,
you mean real
real.
as REAL?
Yeah, real.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have no reason to make these stories up.
I know. It's just an interesting word that popped up. So go ahead, continue. This Ovilus thing is interesting.
Wow, it's strange that it said real at the end.
Yeah, it
I
did.
guess that puts the exclamation point on it. Like, I have nothing to gain by fabricating stories.
Oh, I know.
No one knows who I am. They don't know where I work. They don't know where I live. They don't know what I look like. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. It is. So you saw Dave
Um,
afterwards, right?
I'm sorry.
You saw Dave afterwards.
Oh yeah, yeah. And he just seemed like a changed person. He came over. He brought some beer. I don't drink. Um, but he wanted to talk, and he just kind of went over that evening, like how you do
Mm-hmm.
for a first timer. You know, you did okay, but his mind seemed to be searching for more than I could give him. Like exactly what he. I'm not sure. He did ask me like, would I take him again on another quest? And I said, yeah, I would. But I don't know. It just seemed like his mind was wavering. He was dealing with stuff that he didn't really want to talk about. I guess maybe being an ex-marine, maybe he thought it would be unmanly to talk about things he might be experiencing. Or sometimes people are afraid to tell other people because afraid of being ridiculed, you know, or afraid to be labeled a crack. So won't go into detail with others around them. That can be painful because you need a sounding board. You need to communicate with other people. I think it is anyway. But yeah, after that, I kind of lost touch with him because his company had lost a contract at the shopping center.
Wow. Well, my friend, that was incredible. Um, all of it actually, and I appreciate you sharing these. I appreciate you sharing these experiences with everyone here tonight. And
Oh, the reason I did it was oddly enough to discourage people from going there.
well, I think you did
Not
it.
just because of the environmental dangers, but the spiritual attacks. You know, like I said, I still have nightmares till this day. This is from '09.
Yeah, I believe you. It's just like I tell. It's just like I tell people that for all the years that I've done this, I'm surprised that I'm halfway sane. Where is that
Yeah.
coming from? Hold on. I heard a dog
So
again.
the
I
obelisk.
heard.
What
Yeah.
what other words did it say?
The words weren't pertinent, so I didn't mention them. But like the one with problem and real, the other ones are
Oh
just
yeah.
like Saturn, like the planet Saturn. That has nothing to do with it. So it had other words like that. And what the hell? I keep hearing a dog. Anyway, what I was gonna tell you is when I was up at Aloha, when I was going through my experience, that thing was going off, and it was really connecting with a lot of words. So I don't know what the situation is. I can't really say for
Oh,
sure. I can't.
I can connect some like when I was out there and the people I was with said they saw a blue shadow purse coming. Could that be?
Saturn? No, the other word was cloister. No, that hasn't have a connection.
Oh no, no. You're on the Oli Road where you saw the black figure.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that while you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt. That's exactly what I experienced, and I have I think like 9 or 10 seconds of video that shows
Mm-hmm.
something like a big shadow and part of an arm forming, moving in front of me. After the light was like put on top of me, you could see this thing moving, and that's exactly what it was. So Yeah, that's
I'm thinking,
interesting.
I'm wondering, just speculating if it's the same.
It might be the same. It might be the
It
same.
might be.
It might be. You never can tell. But there's a connection with all of this in some way, possibly. But again, my friend, thank you so much. We've hit 2.5 hours, and I'm hearing dogs.
How long was it?
2.5 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm hearing
Didn't seem
dogs.
like it.
I don't feel comfortable about hearing dogs. I don't feel comfortable about hearing dogs at all. So I don't know if there's any kind of connection. The paranormal is the paranormal. Who's to say what is what? But again, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. Incredible experiences, and I hope everybody enjoyed them as well. I'm going to cut it a little bit short tonight, folks, because like I said, things are getting weird. I don't know where I'm hearing dogs that sound like they're going to attack. They practically sound like they're near me. So that's crazy stuff. And so I'm going to wrap it up. For most of you, you know how to get a hold of me. Facebook, look for my group, Ghosts of Hawaii, 808 Most Haunted 2. You can do that. Contact me on my email, obakihunter51 at gmail.com. And what else can you I haven't done anything with TikTok in a long time because of the epidemic and such. So try those ways of getting a hold of me. You can also, if you go on Instagram, you just see me posting about shows and stuff. Once in a while, I post evidence too. You can find me over there, ghost underscore of underscore Hawaii. So check it out over there as well. I can hear dogs, and that's driving me crazy. You heard the dog too? See? See, I'm telling you, there's dogs, and there was a voice earlier. You know, when you talk about these things, like I said earlier, when you talk about ghosts in Hawaii, I keep hearing the damn dog. When you talk about ghosts in Hawaii, these things hear you and they respond to you. So, yeah, so we're going to wrap things up again. Thank you so much, Sereno, for being here tonight, but it's getting real scary with this conversation. So hang on, stay on standby. I'm going to wrap things up on my end. Look for a show on Wednesday and a show on Thursday with Night Marchers. Show on Pele coming up too. So until then, folks, and again, thank you to Sereno, Ghosts of Hawaii, and I keep hearing a dog. You're home for a dose of ghosts and dogs in the background. I don't know what that is. Good night, everyone. I'll talk to you all later.